Did did I tell you about this guy? Oh, last weekend I met a dude. You know, I'm a big fan of hanging out in the sauna.
Hey, welcome to episode 80 of Front Seat Gamer. I'm Nick. I'm here with Saveun.
Hey, Nick.
And Blake.
What's up?
How's it going, guys?
It's going well.
Yep.
Good. Great. That's all we got time for now.
Yep.
So, as usual, we start by talking about what we've been playing. I've been playing lots of mobile games. I've actually just started playing the Elder Scrolls card game on my phone. And I'm enjoying that so far.
We got an email from a listener
Yes.
about a card game that I
Yes.
just saw today, even though it was sent probably 2 weeks ago. That you, I think, might need to do some homework on.
Yeah, Prismata. It sounds interesting. I hadn't heard of it before, but I'm gonna give that a whirl.
Is it a mobile game?
I don't know.
No, it's a Steam game.
Oh, Nick will never play it.
Yeah, it looks early. I think it. I clicked on it. I think it said early access as well.
Oh,
So
boy.
there's another mark
Oh,
against
boy.
it for Nick.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, how many early access games have stayed in early access? Lots and lots.
I think Ark is released.
In fact, I'm playing one on mobile, which I think I started playing this maybe like a year ago.
Yep, and it's still in early access.
And it's still technically in early access.
I went through that phase of downloading tons of early access games, and now I'm really cautious about them.
What burned you?
Just all of them. They all burned me.
Yeah.
Just all of them.
It's like
Just
lots
every
of little
single one.
burns just over and over. It's
Yeah.
like you light a little match and one burn doesn't hurt, but like a whole box of them.
Mm-hmm. It's the 1,000 needles effect.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I got 1,000 needled by all these games.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I've got some on my wish list, and that Viking town management one called Northgard, I think, is now out of early access, which is great.
Okay.
So I'm gonna get that.
Did you start playing it?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I've been playing other things. So
Has it been reviewed and stuff?
yeah, I think it's like quite positive.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's good. So yesterday we revealed the next league for Path of Exile, Incursion.
Yep. Oh yeah. Do you want to talk about what we did on it?
Sure.
What'd you do,
I
Nick?
mean, we're still doing stuff.
What NPC did you? What new popular NPC did you create?
I didn't create this new popular NPC, but we do have Alva. Alva Valai is the new NPC. I helped sort of tidy up the script and stuff for that, and I was there for the audio recording.
Oh yeah.
So I helped with the directing a little bit. That was cool.
Oh cool. What was
And,
that like? We just have fun with it.
Just make it your own. You know? Just play around with it a little bit.
Have you ever watched Toast of London?
Yes.
Yeah, there's that scene where he's doing some voice acting, and the only word is no.
Yes.
Was it yes? I can't remember. Yes, it's yes.
Yeah.
And they're just like, just have fun with it. Just kill it. And he just yells yes, yes, yes over and over for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's pretty.
And they still don't look satisfied with anything he's doing.
When doesn't it turn out they weren't recording or something? I think they.
Yeah.
It's a good show.
Yeah. And he's holding the script, and they're just like, look, just lose the script. We don't need it. It's just one word. Highly recommend Toast of London.
Yeah, that's starring Matthew Berry, which I think has probably my favorite voice in all of acting.
Yeah.
Just so weird and deep and rich. So yeah, helped out with that a little bit. We're still working on stuff, so we can't talk about any like super specific details, but just like time travel mechanics and trying to make a story around time travel is real hard. So
I think it's good that it's based in a building.
Yep. Yeah, it keeps
Right.
it very, very much isolated.
Yeah,
from the
like
rest of
that.
the world. Yeah.
Like that's good because then you can see your the things you change.
Yes.
Like I think that's great.
Yeah. Fair enough. Good.
Yeah.
Wait. Now, have you guys had much involvement in Incursion?
I did some minor things, nothing too crazy.
Oh yeah.
What did you do?
There are some altars that I oversaw. Which is,
Yes.
but yeah, there was a whole bunch of art stuff that I saw, but I'm working on some top secret shit.
Mm. Ooh.
Yeah,
Ooh.
you're on the Black projects.
Yeah.
Black Ops.
Yeah, the Black Op projects.
Oh, that's right. Path of Exile Black Ops is the next
Yeah,
one, right?
yeah.
I did. I did have a look at a lot of those altars. They're cool looking. Good assets.
They are cool, and the effects guy at work was sending around gifts, and man, there's some cool. Have you seen the altar effect?
The transitioning stone
Yeah,
thing.
and it's kind of like fuzzy TV sort of thing, just kind of swiping back and forth.
Yeah,
Oh wow, I haven't seen that.
Awesome. I love that effect.
pretty cool. One thing that I was quite amused by during development, we had this character Alpha, and we're testing stuff, and a lot of NPCs have greetings. Like when you approach them in the world, they'll say things. Like Sana says, "Still sane, exile," and so I put some like temporary text in there, which I put it in just so we had something, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'll make a little joke, and so I had her say, "Let's make history."
Oh right,
'Cause,
yeah.
You go back in the past and
Yeah.
literally make history, and I thought that was funny, and it has filtered into almost every element of
Wow.
like, it's in the trailer, it's multiple times in her script, which I didn't write.
Yep.
I just love that you can.
That's great that you just
drop
did
a little thing in
something-
there and
yeah.
it percolates out.
But you didn't even think about it. You just like, this will be a funny placeholder thing.
Yeah, and now it's everywhere.
And now it's like her main catchphrase. Yeah.
Yeah.
The catchphrase of the whole like thing.
Of the league.
Yeah, of the league.
Yeah, it's the last line in the trailer.
Oh man.
As a related note, we've also announced that Bestiary is not going to be part of the core game, which means Einhar is vanishing from Raid class, and people are very upset about that, which makes me very happy.
There was suggestions. we can talk about suggestions that people have sent in that were like, oh, you should do like a Jurassic Park style ruined like bestiary that,
people
that
wanted
you
to-
find.
Yeah, people were like asking for a unique map where
Yeah.
Einhar is in the ruined.
I think that's a cool
menagerie.
idea. I don't know if anyone would ever do it, but I think
Yeah,
it's cool.
you have to look at the logistics and all that, but
Would that be the first time content's been pulled out or discontinued?
not really. I mean, it's. I think we said that we might bring it back in some form or whatever. Like we have like legacy leagues and those sorts of things, like the flashback races and all sorts of these things where mechanics can just be brought back temporarily. And so it seems unlikely to me that it's gone forever in all forms. But like Talisman was more or less pulled out. Tempest was more or less pulled out. Warbands was more or less pulled out,
Right.
but they all sort of came back to varying degrees through other mechanics. So, yeah, it's not the first time we've said the league isn't making it to the core game without big like modifications or whatever. So yeah, that's what have you guys been playing? You've been
Wait,
playing.
Blake, did you work on anything cool? I think you
Oh,
have.
yeah.
Oh
that's
yeah,
right.
I worked on the entrance to the temple. I worked on that.
I saw in the trailer that we had for early cuts. It was just a big blue block.
Yeah,
Did you make that big blue block?
I made that.
That was beautiful.
That's still in.
Yep, and that's permanent, right?
Yep, that's it.
Untextured.
Yep.
No
Oh, it's
poly.
textured. It's got a blue texture.
Oh, right.
It's got a highlight of blue. Yeah.
No, that entrance looks fantastic.
Yeah, I made that entrance. I did the. I don't know how much about mechanics we can talk, but there's these like doors/walls that you interact with.
Yeah,
in the
people have
past.
seen it in the trailer. There's
Yeah.
you pick up some objects to open doors.
Yeah, so I made the thing that you, that you affect
Yeah,
and becomes like.
it's a big spinny wheel thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Neat.
That's kind of the main thing. Yeah.
That's going to be out in like
Trying to think what else I did, but like, been working a lot, and I can't remember. I can't think of anything I've been doing.
We're about 3 weeks away from that
Yeah.
being out as of recording right now. So that's exciting, but there's still a fair bit to do. Yeah. So you guys have been playing games. I know, Saveun, you've been playing God of War, right?
I finished the main story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. It's good.
Is it now your favorite game?
No.
Is it better than GTA 5?
In what way? Just as a game?
Enjoyment.
No.
Okay. How in what way?
I hate how like whenever I talk about games, it always goes back to Grand Theft Auto.
Well, that's your favorite game, right? Is it not your favorite game?
It's yeah it is, but
So?
for like a lot of technical reasons rather than gameplay and story reasons.
Sure.
See what I mean?
You like it from purely a technical achievement standpoint, or not purely from that, but that is the reason that it is your favorite game.
Yeah, a lot of those reasons.
Yeah.
The God of War. Yeah, it's fine. It's cool to hear like other people's story. I was rushing through it because I didn't want to have things spoiled for me in that game.
Oh wow.
Mm.
That's sort of
Yeah.
why I was pushing through it. And yeah, I played through it. It's cool. What's amazing about it is no one's really spoiled any of that. So I don't want to play into this and say something that maybe may reveal something like
Right.
that ending.
That's fair.
Yeah.
At some point, probably next podcast, you're gonna lend me
Oh, yep. Yep, we'll
God
do
of
that.
War, and I will talk about how much worse it is than Zelda.
Cool. Okay.
No, I'm ready to be proven wrong about Zelda being the best game ever made, but we'll see what happens.
Why is Zelda so good?
Oh my goodness,
Oh man.
Like,
so good.
because when you get hit with that question, is it like looking at the sun? You've just got so much you want to kind of talk about.
A little bit,
Yeah.
Like okay, let's talk about what's bad in that game. How about that?
Is it easier to say what's bad
It-
because
it-
there's
I
just it does
genuinely
so
is.
many things good?
Yeah, I think it actually is.
Not enough Korok seeds.
What do you? Shut up, Blake.
That's the number
You
one
make
bad
me-
thing.
No, the voice acting in English is awful.
Uh-huh.
It is truly abysmal,
Mhm.
and even the writing in those cutscenes is not very good.
Mhm.
But the writing outside of that is fantastic. So it's weird that there's just these like
What
few moments.
what writing outside is there?
Every NPC you can talk to,
Oh, you mean
every
that-
description on
okay.
every item.
I was thinking like story wise, like you just sort of run around.
Yeah, you do run around, but like there's like a bunch of towns with dozens and dozens of NPCs, all of which have like cool character quirks, and there's this great running gag I've talked about before that Link is super sexy.
Yeah.
And like you mostly get this from women, but there's like the occasional guy who thinks Link is sexy, and that's like it's just like really funny.
Yeah.
So I remember I actually went back because I'd like to talk about Red Dead at some point.
Yeah.
But I went back and listened to one of your criticisms to Grand Theft Auto, and it was that you didn't like traversing from one place to another. You
Uh-huh.
didn't like the traveling. So now Zelda's doing open world. How do they deal with that? And do you enjoy going from A to B?
I do.
Mhm.
It's so funny that
Because there's no traffic in Zelda, right?
Is that what's up?
I think that's it.
But yeah, if the police chased you every time you did something wrong in Zelda, I would probably not enjoy it so much. But no, the real reason is, okay, Zelda has quick travel, which I think is very important for an open world game at this point, especially one so packed with interesting things to do. But on top of that, because there's so many interesting things to do, when you don't quick travel, it never really feels like you're wasting time. Whereas when you're playing Grand Theft Auto, there are very few things to do outside of points of interest. Like if all of your quest things are on the map, and there's like some procedurally generated, like guy who steals someone's handbag or whatever, and you can chase him down. But it's
Shoot him in the back.
right. It's all quite basic, and it's random. Whereas this like hand constructed series of hidden Korok seeds and puzzles and like little offering shrines and like trees with certain fruits that you should be like, I didn't even know that was a thing until
You thought it was a bug.
I didn't think it was a bug. I
We-
thought it was just lazy
Yeah,
world building.
you thought it was a mistake. That just
Right.
like these three trees in a row are identical. Oh, these bloody devs just like didn't even bother to.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think your perspective as a 3D artist helped you realize.
Yeah,
that
probably
was-
because I was like, these all look the same. There's a reason for them being
yes,
here.
yes, and I was like, these all look the same. Oh well,
Must be a mistake.
Yeah, there's just so much to do, and when you
'Cause
do want to
I
go
say
to a
that same thing. Like these are my arguments for what Grand Theft Auto does well as well. Like,
Sure.
It,
but
what I'm
like
saying?
if you want to get to a quest in Grand Theft Auto, you have to drive to that quest.
no,
No,
no.
you can't quick. Well, how do you quick travel?
That you can cycle through characters in the last one.
Sure, I understand that, but there's no guarantee your character is going to be near the thing you want to do.
You can quick travel.
How?
You go onto a cab.
Ugh.
Like you set a marker
Yeah.
where you want to go.
Dude,
and
it's immersive.
But
So you have to hail down a cab. You
Yeah.
have to make sure you don't accidentally steal the cab, which is
yeah, I think it's like
But then you can work as a cab driver and get some extra money.
you know how I go to a place in Zelda?
How?
I just press a button
Mm.
and it brings up the menu, and I just click on the thing I want to go to. And if there's somewhere I haven't visited and I want to unlock it, there's like all these towers. The towers are so good. The gliding makes that like navigation so easy.
Mm.
Yeah, that gliding in Zelda, like I got so used to that when I went back to play Horizon, I was just like, I feel like I should be able to jump off this cliff and just
Yeah.
glide down, but
Yeah, it
It-
really becomes like because they give you so many ways to get around in the world.
Mm.
Getting around in the world is a pleasure. It's not a hassle. That's really what it comes down to. It's just so free to explore.
Yeah.
If I want to get on top of a building in GTA, have to like find a plane. or whatever.
helicopter.
So
Yeah.
it's
But
like
sometimes you can find a building with like a little thing you stand on, and then you can warp to the top of it,
sure,
like
yeah,
the maze
totally.
bank thing.
Yeah, you could find a occasional building in GTA that you can climb on top of. In Zelda, I can climb anything.
but
So good.
I mean that doesn't fit into the GTA world. Like you don't just you can't seriously say that you would want to walk up to a building and just start climbing it like Spider-Man in GTA.
Have you played Crackdown?
In GTA,
Yeah, but
you're not
I
a superhero in GTA.
But I agree. Yes, it doesn't make sense in GTA.
Yeah.
But that contributes to it being a hassle to get around the world. Their commitment to immersiveness is great, although a little bit inconsistent. But I mean, like for example, the cops just you go inside a garage and they're just like, oh, where did he go?
Well, why do you hate the cops in GTA? Why do you hate
I
authority?
don't. It is. Why do I hate authority? It's just an unnecessary obstacle
It's just
for exploration.
another game mechanic.
Right. But
Mhm.
it's a game mechanic that gets in the way of what I want to be doing in an open world game.
Only if you're an asshole about it. Like if you happen to kill a guy, like murder a guy while driving to a
Or
place.
if you nudge the wrong car, or if you like, there's a
You're
place.
saying I think you're saying that their police system needs to be a little more like
lenient.
lenient and maybe like have more variations where instead of like the cops for nudging a car, the cops coming at you and just gunning you down, they get out of their car, write you a ticket, like look at your license, like
Yeah,
they
actually,
let
you
you
know
off
what?
with a warning.
You know what? If it was a case of like you nudge a car and there was like a button you could press that was like pay your ticket,
Yeah.
pay your fine or
Yeah.
whatever,
Or
and
don't, and then you
deducts
could
your
just
money.
let the fines like build up,
Yeah,
and then you get slapped. Like you get a knock on the door one day, and there's a lawyer there being, you need to be in court because you got 500 like tickets.
it actually sounds way more interesting to me.
That does sound cool.
Yeah.
I actually really like that idea. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, and I get like it's fun. I like playing GTA, but here's the thing: whenever I play a GTA game, I never finish the story, and it's because it becomes tiresome to actually do the content for
Mm.
me.
I think a lot of people just don't like the theme also.
I liked the theme in the most recent one. I actually really enjoyed the writing. I thought that the character performances were fantastic. Whenever I see the guy who played
Trevor,
yeah,
the crazy guy.
yeah.
Yep.
Whenever he's been on like Broad City and a few other
Steve-
shows.
Really, I don't think
Steve
I've seen.
Ogg, I think.
I
his
don't think
name
I've
is.
seen him in real life.
He plays a bunch of different. He's always playing a creepy character.
Yeah.
He was in Walking Dead.
Okay.
And he's like I always see him whenever I see him on these things. Was like he was so good in GTA. Like it was such a standout performance. So it's not like I hate that game. It's just that like it's tiresome for me.
What difficulty level were you playing it on?
It doesn't have difficulty levels
Oh, it doesn't?
in Grand Theft Auto.
It doesn't have them?
No,
Oh, okay. Because I was just thinking, like,
because God of War is
yeah, because God of War, I had to turn it down. Holy shit. Yeah, because I was just thinking when I was playing it, the one thing that bugged me was having to repeat missions over and over, and what started off as being like real cinematic and awesome just got repetitive.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, maybe I should just play again and turn it down to like the easiest thing, so
you know
I don't
what's
have
rough
to repeat
is
stuff.
because I played through the early missions quite a few times.
Yeah.
But they start you off, and I think Conan, his weird stupid gamer segment or
Yeah.
whatever.
Oh yeah.
They start you off with this one mission where you have to like fetch your stupid kid from the back of this truck, and you've got to kind of tail
Oh
this thing,
yes.
and that is very hard for people to do. Like my brother
Yeah.
had difficulty doing
It's
that.
because it's really poorly signaled. That particular quest is very poorly signaled. It doesn't really.
Not only that, you have like there is like they have weird rubber banding where like you're going really fast, okay, and then the truck speeds up,
Yeah.
but then you're like in this weird zone of like it's trying to predict where you'll be, but and you're changing your mind as well. You're adjusting
Right.
on the fly.
Yeah.
And so the speeds never really match up. They kind of give you this huge target to hit, but because the speed's so inconsistent, it's hard for you to.
that I struggled with that mission the first time I played it.
Mm.
And so yeah, I absolutely see why people struggle with
Yeah,
that
it sucks for like an early mission. Like
Yes.
you have to be pretty onto it.
And there's that's often been the case with GTA games. There are these weird difficulty spikes, or at least frustration spikes, where there is a story mission that is so far off the difficulty curve compared to whatever led up to it that you just get stuck, and it's not. You've got this big open world to explore, and sometimes there's like areas that are locked behind these missions that you just. I don't know. It's just a bummer when you hit those missions. And
That's the trouble with the open world game anyway, right? Like you're to progress, you're expected to do this like main story thing.
Yeah.
And then if you get into a roadblock, you're like, well, I guess I'll do some other stuff. But then it kind of breaks the flow of the actual like main story.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
not progress.
Yeah, and not progress.
This comes back to Zelda. Within the first hour, you get every single tool you need to do anything in the game.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Yeah, you can. I really like. Oh man, Zelda. I really like how you can just fight the end boss right off the bat.
Yeah,
if
you can just go straight to the
Yeah.
end.
and
Do
you'll get
people do that?
Yeah, speedrunners. There's videos of people who like grab sticks and then go and fight Ganon.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really good. I think you know what. If you think Saveun should play Zelda, email us frontseatquestions@gmail.com. I really, really would like to hear what you think once you've played that game. It is just such a delight to play, in my opinion.
So there's that Red Dead trailer.
Oh yes,
Yep. Blake hasn't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
you haven't seen it.
No,
Weird, huh?
How did you manage to get Saveun to not make you?
he just never came over.
Tell me
to
how you do that.
Just never come over to me. Just glare at him when he walks by and goes, "Oh." But like,
I knew Blake was expecting me to go over, so I just,
yeah, that's the thing. I was expecting, and then I kept hearing other people were like, "Oh man, Saveun came and showed me this. Someone came and showed me this." And I was like, "He hasn't showed me. This is strange."
Yep, I'm sorry, Blake. You're not on that list anymore.
No, that's fine. But like, do you want to talk about like what you're hoping to see out of Red Dead? Like,
Well, they actually talked about it a little bit.
oh yeah,
Yeah, and it sounds pretty epic. Like,
Red Dead is actually a game I'm really excited to play.
so the second one sounds insane. They've talked a little bit about the game, so it's, it will have a single player. It has an online multiplayer that they haven't talked about, but they're teasing it's pretty crazy. They put a lot of work into that as well.
because their GTA Online has really like evolved, right? It's,
Yeah.
it's like
It
a
became
big
A
thing
big
now.
focus for development, right?
Yeah, it's what afforded them to
Yeah,
pretty much put off this game and just keep working
which
on
is
it.
it's cool because I always got the feeling that it just started off as like a side thing and be like, oh yeah, there's online stuff.
Yeah, I think it actually was the reason that Leslie Benzine guy left.
Oh
Grand
yeah,
Theft Auto,
huh?
because there were talks about it. Anyway, the Red Dead thing is like, there was an IGN article as well as a Telegraph article, and they both saw 45-minute demos of Red Dead.
Okay.
And it looks like you have a base camp. You guys live outside of towns. There are role-playing game elements in it,
Oh, yep.
where like you've got to upkeep this camp.
Oh, right. Huh.
That's
And-
cool. I hope it's not frustrating
I hope so too.
because there are games, Animal Crossing, for example, where the upkeep becomes laborious.
I thought the upkeep was the game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's with a game like Animal Crossing, it's fine to pull out your weeds every day if you play every day.
Hmm.
There's like 5 or whatever that grow in the entire town. It's
Yep.
a piece of cake. But when you leave it for like a few weeks
Yeah.
and then everything's overgrown and everyone's grumpy and it's
Yeah.
just like, I don't want to do any of this.
So you play as this character, the dude with the blue shirt, Arthur Morgan, who is Dutch's right-hand man. So I don't think you have to do these tasks unless you choose to do them.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also, the way you engage some of the characters in your camp seems more dynamic, where your actual controls will dictate how you respond to them. So
Yeah.
a guy will say, "Hey man, our supplies are running low, like food," and you can, I'm sure it will bring up like intimidate or some shit,
Mhm.
like
Oh,
something
right.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But you can just walk away from him, and
Yep.
that's also a
Oh,
response.
that's cool. Yeah,
So that's kind of cool.
I really, really like that.
I like the idea of like not having to walk over to a thing and press X
Yep.
on it,
Yep.
when clearly that's the only thing you can do. So why am I just doing it anyway?
Mm.
So I like that you can. It sounds like you can engage in conversations and things like that. There is an animal pecking order. It sounds like, and from this demo, it seems like they went out hunting a deer, and he wounded it. So he wounded the deer, and it hopped away.
Yep.
But you could track the deer, and then it died. I don't know, 50 meters away.
Yep.
If you were to leave it, it would start rotting and attracting other animals
That's
to
cool.
the area. Also, if you leave it in the sun, it will rot and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it sounds really epic.
Yeah, if that's all true, that's great.
There were other things also. They've even done it to where, with your right trigger, it actually the sensitivity, the pressures within from not pressing it to fully pressing it,
Yep.
are registered in the gun and how you handle the
Oh.
gun. Which mean like they were talking about how you can intimidate people with a gun. So walking around a town with your gun not holstered
Yep.
puts people on like uneasy.
I like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
But also you can. It sounds like you can hold your gun up to a person and actually cock it and threaten them, like so
Whoa. Yep.
that kind of degree with the trigger.
Yeah.
You really don't. You want to be careful with that.
The hammer, right, is a real like
Yeah.
classic Western like. Oh yeah, click.
Yes. So
Mm.
you can threaten people on that kind of level, which sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean there are games, I don't remember which, but there are games where whether your weapon is holstered or not will completely change the way. Is it Skyrim? I think maybe even does that.
A lot of RPGs do that. Like I think
Yeah.
The Witcher. I don't know if The Witcher actually really changes stuff, but people definitely like if you take out your sword, people start going whoa whoa
Yeah.
around.
That's cool. And they have things of like you have a reputation if you go into a town and you're a thief or a murderer.
Yeah.
They will acknowledge you that way.
Dude, you win me over.
Like the single player sounds ridiculous, and it was
Yeah.
just a 45-minute demo, and they were just talking about how the nature is ruthless at nighttime. So you want to kind of be at base camp with
Yep.
you guys and just hang out. And when you're there, you'll hear stories about Dutch, and like there's a lot of dialogue and like world
Yeah.
building.
well,
within
who
that.
is this Dutch person?
Yeah, I was wondering that too.
So you guys never played the first Red Dead,
No.
but
It never came to PC.
what's funny
Yeah.
is man, it's kind of cool because John Marston's a dude, the protagonist in the first Red Dead, and in that Red Dead he's a snitch basically,
Oh, right,
and you're
yeah.
a snitch and you're trying to catch these old guys you used to roll with,
Yeah.
in this gang.
Oh right.
So this Red Dead 2 takes place 12 years before Red Dead 1, and John Marston is one of those guys in the gang.
oh okay.
So
That's cool.
you as Arthur Morgan
Yeah.
see John Marston come up.
Ah, So you're not playing as John Marston.
You're not playing as John Marston.
Can you kill him and be like, you look
Well,
like a snitch.
if
You look
you-
like a future snitch to me.
And then your copy of Red Dead 1 just vanishes.
Yeah.
But if you saw the trailer,
Yeah.
yeah, there are some things there. They do some cuts, and you're kind of left thinking like, what's happening here?
Yep. Oh, that's cool.
So we'll have to watch it after this.
Yep. Was Red Dead the first one set kind of like at the sort of end of the Western era?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. And this is if you watch the trailer, Blake,
Yeah.
they'll put some text on the screen which says like, at this point in time, cowboys, that whole thing, they were becoming a thing of myth.
Yep.
Mm.
They start talking about that,
Yeah.
how like cowboys, that way of living just was
Yeah.
getting phased out.
Yeah. That way of living like didn't last very long. It was like less than 100 years.
Yeah, I mean, it
Like
was
50
basically
years or something like that. It's hardly any time.
Yeah, I mean, the reason for that is because they were literally, it was a migration to uninhabited areas, quote unquote uninhabited. I mean, really, there were Native
But-
Americans there the whole time,
Yeah.
but
yeah.
of Westerners moving west
Mm.
to the western coast, like California, and like back then, it takes 6 months to cross the U.S.
Yeah.
And so there were these towns that would slowly spring up across the country, usually just like, I don't want to keep going. I'm just going to
Mm.
make a home here.
On the edge of the lawless.
Yeah, literally on the
Yeah.
frontier of Western civilization.
Yeah.
And so they would, and, because there are Native Americans there and you're moving into their lands, they are there to, try and kill you.
Yep.
I
I ain't happy about it.
and there's no law there because there's no sort of civilization there. There's
Yeah.
no one's there to make sure everything's running smoothly. And
Yeah.
so
So it really was lawless.
yeah, it was a lawless area, and it was often like scummy people who went out that way because they couldn't make it work in a big city like New Amsterdam.
People that are escaping the law as well probably
Yeah.
headed out there.
Yep.
They also talked about this one mechanic of if you lose your hat,
Oh no! Yeah.
That happens in Mario.
if you happen to lose your hat, you may not like you'll become overheated, like just out.
Oh
in-
right.
in-
I thought you were going to
in
say
the-
something like
in the
you
wick.
lose your social status or something.
No, but-
people laugh at you and
Because
you feel bad.
I remember on Back to the Future Part 3 when he first shows up in the West, they make a big deal about him not having a hat. Like, what? You're out? You got no hat?
the worst Back to the Future.
Let's not talk about it.
I didn't like.
I like all Back to the Futures for different reasons.
But that is the worst one.
Yeah, probably, but
Yeah.
I think the worst. I think the worst thing in Back to the Future is just the pretty much no connection between like 1 and 2.
What do you mean?
How the doc
in
shows up
3?
at the end and he's like, no, at the end of the first one where the doc shows up and he's like, Marty, it's your kids. You got to do something about your kids.
Yeah.
And then you get to the second one and it's like he could have just talked to Marty at that time about his kids. Like, I don't know why he needed to go and get teenage Marty
Yeah.
to deal with teenage Marty's kids. Like it doesn't make any sense.
Shh. Oh yeah. you're
Because and then that's all that is to just set up them being
Them
in the
being a s-
future to
yeah.
get the almanac and all that, and then have all that happen.
right. Sure. Yeah. So this is now a Back to the Future
Yeah.
podcast.
Don't make me talk about Back to the Future. I really like those movies, but I'll happily point out their problems.
So yeah, that trailer looked good. Saveun came over to my desk and pointed to shadows for a while.
I showed Blake the same image,
Yep.
and Blake, do you want to comment on it? You want to give some authentic Blake
It looked
reaction?
cool.
You heard it here first.
What bummed me out was I asked Nick what he thought of this one screenshot, and he said it looked like Far Cry 5, and I was like,
I
"You-
didn't say it looked like Far Cry 5. I said those are cool shadows, but I wonder if other games have done it. What's like on the what's on the technical brink right now? Far Cry 5? I don't know. Usually Crysis is
I
like
can
the
bring up the,
Crytek.
I can bring up the logs, but that
You got-
that was pretty
Please do. Please do, because
That's
you
pretty
will
much-
be surprised.
That's pretty much came out. But at that moment, I had to walk over to Nick's desk and be like,
He was so upset with me. He was like, "You're not allowed to comment on graphics ever again."
Yeah,
To which I said,
taking
"You're not
your-
allowed to comment on gameplay."
and I'm cool with that. I'm okay with it. I'm removing your artistic comment privileges.
That's fine. I don't even care anymore.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about what I did last night.
Oh.
Because we briefly talked about this before the podcast. You thought I should talk about it on the podcast.
Oh yeah.
So
What you did last night? Yeah. Talk
Yeah.
about it.
It's currently the 48-hour film festival. Is that what it's called? I don't know. Competition? 48-hour film competition?
V was hosting it when I was doing it.
Yeah, they're still a sponsor. They're
Okay,
just not
cool.
the name sponsor anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Is it global?
I don't think so. I think it's New Zealand
Okay.
specific.
You're thinking like global game.
Yeah,
Jam?
I'm thinking a global game jam.
So they give you a bunch of things that you have to put in your film, and everyone gets different things. It might just be, or at least maybe the genre changes.
Yeah.
But so our genre was the movie that takes place over 10 years,
Okay.
and we had to put in a door slamming, a puddle,
Wow.
and a silhouette or shadow.
Ooh.
And so spent several hours last night with my group brainstorming the story. Do you want to hear what the story was?
Yeah, go for it.
So it starts off, this kid in
Door
in his
slams.
room. He's on his computer. It's like 13 years ago. We used the number 13 because it's unlucky.
Hmm.
And he's going through his emails, and he comes across one of those chain emails. One of those like, send this email to 15 other people, or Bloody Mary will come and murder you.
Yeah.
And
Did
Yeah.
you write the ring?
I did write the ring. Yeah. No.
Did you just rewrite the ring?
So he finds this email and he deletes it. Last night I wrote the email.
Oh yeah,
It's pretty funny.
that's cool.
And then 13 years later, he's living in a nice mansion, and someone knocks on his door, and it's a woman named Mary, and she's there to kill him because he didn't forward the email, and she's very bureaucratic about it.
Oh wow,
Like she's got
cool.
forms, and he's like,
Yeah.
okay, so you didn't send it to anybody, so I'll have to tear out your eyes with a fork and eat your face, and hang you
pretty
by your
cool.
intestines so for all your neighbors to see. And he freaks out and slams the door, and then she's like, instantaneously she appears behind him because she's supernatural. And
Mhm.
he's like, so I just need to make sure that your identity is correct. So if you can just answer your secret email questions. What was your mother's maiden name? Like, he runs through the house and hides in the bathroom, and she's in the mirror, of course, and is just talking to him through the mirror, and he tries to call the police, and she takes his phone through the mirror, and once she establishes his identity, she ticks off all the boxes on her form and is gonna kill him, and he slips over in a puddle and dies
Oh wow.
before she gets a chance to. And she turns the next page. She sighs and
Yeah.
turns the next page, and there's an incident report form for her to fill out, and the credits
I
roll.
like that. That's
Yeah.
cool.
So that was the premise of the film, and we stayed up last night writing the script, and it was interesting. It's fun being given these restraints.
Yep.
And I haven't really worked on a film script or a movie script ever before, really. Not for one that's going to be made,
Yeah.
anyway.
I think we when George was on, we got onto the subject of like restraints, like helping you create,
Mhm.
like
Yes.
helping you be
I
more
had a
creative.
similar conversation with Nick the other day,
Yeah,
writing for
Path of
Incursion.
Exile.
Yeah.
In fact, for Incursion. Oftentimes, I mean, there is a gradient to how much restraint can help. A few restraints can help you a ton because it gives you things to work around.
Yep.
As in, like, you've got these things and you build your story around them. But then when you've got a lot of restraints, it can make writing very
Yeah.
difficult because oftentimes you will come up with things and you cannot make all of these restraints work together. They conflict. Like, well, how can we have this character stand outside in the rain and also have this hurricane make sense or whatever. It's just like, I don't know. It's a terrible example, but
Yeah.
there are there comes a point where there are too many restraints to make something good.
Like when you heard the Kevin Smith story about the Superman movie that never happened.
The giant mechanical spider.
Yep, the giant mechanical spider, and this guy just kept having like he needs a polar bear fight, he needs needs to fight a giant spider at some point, like all these things, and then he ended up ended up not being made.
Yeah.
But then like a year or two later, Wild West came out, which this guy had been a producer on, and there was a giant mechanical spider.
Yep.
That they made it work in some way because it was a giant mechanical spider, so steampunk spider.
Yeah.
But still, that's a restraint that they shouldn't have needed.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really particularly weird one, and obviously this dude's preference was...
But also, wasn't that bad guy all about machines and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So,
Which is
I don't know what the writing process was for Wild Wild West. It's entirely possible that the script didn't have a villain who was all about machines, and the producer was very vehemently, like, you needed that mechanical spider in that movie and they rewrite it.
Fiercest animal, the fiercest insect.
Spiders in New Zealand are so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's. Do you often find you guys work with restraints very much? I mean.
Yeah.
Yep, it's called texture resolution.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And polygon count.
Yeah, you especially, Saveun, have to keep a very keen awareness of like the technical restraints of working in Path of Exile.
Yeah.
Does that do you often come to concept artists or anybody like with like we cannot make this work under the current system?
Not really. There's a lot of things that video games just haven't overcome.
Like what?
Such as stretchy armor.
Yes.
Stretchy armor is just a given. Intersecting geometry is just common as well.
Yeah.
We of course want to reduce that. We don't want to have the biggest shoulder pads on guys.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of these things are just video game things. It's just how rigging works and how geometry works, you know. And there isn't a good way to get it to work without a lot of work. And yeah, we just don't have that luxury. A lot of other video games sort of don't really care about it, like which is another reason why God of War is such a cool thing to see, because you kind of know what the best guys are doing in that field in 3D with 3D art with much higher budgets than we have. So within that, yeah, we just try to make things look good with the tools we have. It's really that simple.
Fair enough. I mean,
like the concept artist, that's a whole nother thing. You know, if you want to talk about like the style guide of Path of Exile, that's a whole nother thing.
Right. It's interesting. Stretchy armor is something that I hadn't really even considered until working on Path of Exile and hearing artists discussing it.
Does it make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
The issue?
I mean, there's a level of like, I think there's a degree of acceptance from a player's standpoint. You know you're playing a game. You know that, the character isn't wearing real armor. It's not a real person. The flesh isn't going to like move realistically. And so you sort of, I think, accept that like that armor is just like more or less a retexture of their back or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so that movement doesn't stand out as odd. But then as the technology improves and these games have like, physics-based armor and all these sorts of things that make the movement seem much more realistic. You look back at these other games, and it's weird. I was watching a Donkey video of him playing, I think it was Enter the Matrix.
Oh wow! Yep.
Which was, I think that came out like early 2000s. And I maybe he was playing like a hacked version of it, but it was, it just looked awful.
That's probably the game. Probably, I mean, that's probably it.
But I remember when that came out, it was popular and it was like well reviewed.
Yeah, but like,
and
that is just the nature of video games.
Yes.
Yeah, like Pong was popular.
But it's like I was looking at like the combat. There was some physics in there, but the physics was like terrible. But back then, any sort of physics was probably really impressive.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that like what can be a technical innovation at one point can be a complete like ruin ruiner for like game ruiner for
Dude,
10 years later.
It happens with everything. The like I talk about my TV.
Oh, boy.
just going back with TVs is different.
God, you love your TV.
It's so cool.
Tell us about it.
But
What's the serial number again?
but video games for sure, because it's always one-upping itself constantly. So
And it's so fast too. It's like if you look at a game from early 2000s, not even really that long ago.
Star Fox is a good example. Like the Super Nintendo Star Fox looks terrible.
it's like the first 3D.
It was one of the very first ones,
Yeah.
and it was there's I don't even know if there are textures. It's just like flat surfaces.
Yeah.
And you can sort of make out that like Andross is meant to be a face, and and then you look at Star Fox 64, and that game actually still looks pretty good.
Well, dude, even Mario 64, I remember seeing that not too long ago and being like, I could have like there were so many like billboards that always face the camera. Like the trees and stuff. And when I was a kid, I was like, I could have sworn those were fully 3D trees. Like Mario looks all like chunky and like you can see his like faceted like polygons. I was like, I could have sworn he was like smooth and like completely like perfect.
That anti-aliasing on a shitty TV. That's what that does.
It's just like like one like single plane like textures and polygon stuff, and you're just like, I could have sworn all this was pure all 3D back in the day. But
I mean, honestly they used 2D to a really good effect in that world. All the bombs are like just 2D circles, and all the trees are 2D.
Yeah.
There are tons and tons of things that are just 2D, and as you rotate the camera, you can tell.
Yeah. But when I was a kid, I just didn't even
a technical marvel back then.
I remember as a kid, one of the biggest I still remember starting up Mario 64 for the first time and just being like awestruck at it, and just running around that whole like.
Do you remember stretching out his face on that mini screen and going, "How is this possible?"
Yeah. And now I look at that and go, "Oh Jesus!"
Yeah,
Nick, this is why Rockstar is so awesome. Like I hate bringing it back to them, but like when you look at it from these technical standpoints, animation is ridiculous. Like they are the leaders of like physics-based animation systems. There are I can't think of a second place. Like like that.
Don't those Frostbite guys always talk about with their FIFA games and stuff, and they're just like, oh, we've got like. He'll trip over realistically and stuff.
And then you see their heads get lodged in another player, and they
like soccer.
like crazy.
There are hilarious bugs that come out of that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think FIFA games are probably pretty high up on the physics-based animation.
Yeah.
UFC games are really good for that because of like grapples and stuff.
Yeah.
But again, funny bugs. So they've got really cool stuff.
You've seen this is old now, but there was some UFC game that a YouTube video of it where it was all these like bugs happening, but it had a commentary track by this guy as if they were like a real thing, and they're just like, oh, he's going in for the mummy stance, and his hands are just like straight out like jiggling, vibrating.
Fantastic.
That's so cool. But that's really cool, and that's like the future of that. That's where animation will be going, like a physics-based thing. People will. Do you remember playing Uncharted games and he'd walk past a wall and kind of put his arm out and then just touch it?
Yeah,
I think Tomb Raider games doing that kind of thing too. It's cool because
I mean the Assassin's Creed does that in particular. When you walk past people, he puts his arms on touches people's shoulders, which is just like
that's weird.
It's cool like the first time you see it, but when he keeps touching people, it's like
he's trying to clear a path, isn't he?
No, he's just touching people. He's just touching people's shoulders. It's real weird.
How do you get through large groups of people?
Yeah,
you don't just
everyone. Like grope people's shoulders.
Yeah, no, that makes sense now.
Just lightly touch people's shoulders as you come by.
Yeah, just like make them go ooh.
Should be like, oh, did somebody just touch me? I
shiver.
It's so light I couldn't tell.
But I like that kind of stuff. The technical things.
I remember with the original Xbox, there was a game. I think it got canceled, but it was like this pirate game, and they were like a procedurally generated path finding or whatever it was, and it was like they showed off this demo of him walking across these thin like stone poles basically.
Oh yeah.
And he's like finding his foot's falling on these like different varied levels. And
Yep.
it looked cool back then. I should take another look.
Probably looked like
That is
garbage.
cool, and I love seeing that kind of stuff.
Mm.
What you see a lot of games doing is like God of War does it. Is your character will just go into run animations, walk animations, whatever,
Yeah.
and as you stop, their feet will then adjust to the levels of the ground. Like
Mm.
it's at that moment when you stop moving,
Right.
and like people get away with it, people don't care about it. But if you're me,
Mm.
you do care about it.
Mm.
And they do things where they'll put a foot in the mud decal when you're walking through mud
Uh-huh.
to kind of create that illusion of footprints.
Right.
But it's bad because now you can use it as a reference point for where your foot is meant to be, and then you're actually just turning around in a
yeah,
circle,
yeah.
and you're like,
Mm.
my foot's not even
Yeah.
close. So they can't
Zelda.
do
But normal people
Uh,
don't look that close.
it. It's 4K, bro.
You can't help but see.
Yeah, it's
Zelda's
55
climbing-
inches.
Yeah.
Zelda's climbing animation is quite good. You climb up in these weird angles, and he'll put his arms
Mm.
on adjacent rocks and stuff.
That is cool.
Yeah.
His-
I like that dynamic thing.
Mm.
Like
His-
you're presented with a different like path to navigate through, and he adjusts appropriately,
Yeah.
which is nice.
It's not perfect, certainly.
Well,
but,
his climbing animation is such a sort of general climbing animation that it's fine on almost any surface. I
Yeah.
think. Like
That's
you could be
great.
climbing up a rock, and it's exactly the same animation as if you're climbing up stones.
Yes. Though when you see when you get into those like weird, kind of acute angles where he's like sticking his arms between and moving his legs in different positions, it's quite. You don't. It doesn't stand out as weird, I guess is what I'm
Mm.
saying.
I
Like, it
saw
was-
a Breath of the Wild screenshot this
Mm-hmm.
morning where Link is just standing on the edge of this cliff. It's quite a steep cliff, but
Yeah.
he's standing on it, and his ankles are just doing something really messed up. And I'll show you it afterwards.
I'm sure it's perfectly natural. Best game ever.
Maybe.
I remember, I remember there was a time, maybe like maybe not even 5 years ago, not that long ago, but like I'd play several games, BioWare games,
Mhm.
that they'd have these weird because they had this like thing where their feet would adjust to the height of the
The ground.
ground. So if you're standing on a step, they'd be standing on a step like that. But occasionally you get into these weird bugs where one foot thinks that it's not on the ground and would just like fall through the ground for a bit and then catch itself and then it'd stand up and then it'd fall through the ground again.
Yeah, I had
And
one. I had one in God of War when I went to see
Yeah.
one of the dwarves. So these dwarves they forge armor and stuff.
Yeah.
So they've got this desk that you stand over.
Yeah.
And you look at and talk to the dwarf. And I happen to get this one screenshot where Kratos has his left foot just up on this table and his right foot is just on the ground. He's just mad mansplaining.
He's just mad. He's just mad peacocking like
Yeah.
on over the desk.
It's a stance of dominance. He's really showing who's in control of the conversation.
Yeah, it's very
Oh
powerful.
man, that's actually real bad because they're dwarfs, so they're like
Yeah,
real at
they're
that
like, oh,
height.
boy.
Like, oh
Yeah.
no, no,
We're getting a good view there. All right, we haven't answered questions in a super long time. This is a question we have, at least I have put off answering for ages.
Yep.
Because it's quite okay. Let's just go into it. Let's dive into it. All right?
Mhm.
This is from Morgan at 10 Rocket. I think this was emailed months
Yeah.
and months
Yeah,
and
it
months
was.
and months ago.
They probably started their podcast.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's probably
Um,
we got more listeners than us.
Probably.
We should
Not-
ask them.
Yeah. Well, that's part of why we haven't answered it is because, we're not a big podcast. We're not like hugely successful. But the question is, we're launching a podcast and I welcome any advice you have. Our company builds web and mobile apps for startups and entrepreneurs, but I find that many of them have unrealistic expectations about what it takes to start and sustain a thriving business. We're starting a business podcast to provide clarity, expertise, and direction to those who are preparing to begin, working through the slog, or trying to get things back on course. Are there any tools that you use that we should explore? Do you have any advice as we get started with the podcast? And if you could recommend one thing, what would it be? So let's start with why we haven't answered this question before. We're not big. We're not hugely popular. we're not successful. We've got some listeners.
But we do it for the love.
And we've been doing it for a little while.
Mm.
And we've found, I think, I think it's fair to say we've improved. So let's talk about the early days where we had echoing
Yeah.
and bad audio
Yeah.
and, Let's talk about that process, Blake.
All right. Well, I remember when we first started, we were just using, what is it?
Audacity.
Audacity, right? And we had 3 mics, USB mics plugged into one computer, all recording onto one track.
Yep.
And what we found out over the years is that for some reason, these USB mics have a tendency to get out of sync with each other.
Yeah.
As the recording goes on. So you'll listen to it, you'll record for like a few minutes and you'll listen to it and it'll seem fine. But then after an hour, each one has gone a little bit out of sync and it just causes like massive echoing.
Yeah.
And we basically couldn't figure out why for ages. And we started then recording separate tracks into
What do we use for
Audition,
Audition,
Adobe
okay.
Audition. And because they're on separate tracks, when I do the editing, I can move the tracks to be in sync again.
Yeah, you stretch and
Yeah. I started off just moving them, and then I'd be like listening for when they get out of sync, and then cutting it, and then like shifting it a little bit more, and then I just found out like you could just stretch the whole thing, and that fixed up everything completely.
Nice.
So I remember specifically with the first Eric podcast, I seriously spent probably like 4 hours editing.
Oh man.
Because it was like everything was out of sync so much, and I had to make so many like little cuts and like shifting like the tracks around, and and even when I was all done, it wasn't perfect, and I was just like I was just so burnt out on it. And then when I found out that you could just stretch it, it's basically made editing sometimes less than an hour. Most of the editing now is like trying to find the intro and outro.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. And also something that we've very recently realized is clapping at the beginning of the podcast and at the end. Because they get out of sync, I can sync them up with the clap at the beginning, and then I can stretch them so that they're synced up with the clap at the end.
Yeah.
And when I do that, I almost never, they pretty much never go out of sync.
Yeah, it's. I mean, these are little tricks that.
Yeah.
I mean, this is. You ask anybody in the film industry, they do this on every production forever. They do exactly this. They slate at the start, and that's because audio and video used to be recorded separately, and so someone literally had to and still has to sync the audio to the video.
Yeah.
So, it makes sense now to clap at the start and the end, but it took us literally like 2.5 years to figure that out.
Well, the clap because I'd seen other podcasts and they do the clap, and I'm like, why are you doing that? And now I know.
Yeah.
We also had the it wasn't much of a conscious thing, but we kind of went into USB mics because they were cheaper.
Yeah, they're cheaper. They're just cheaper.
They don't require a soundboard, and we didn't know going into it that this was a problem. And I'm not sure if we were to do it again to get like good equipment.
I don't know, because like we record in my apartment, and if we get a soundboard, that is just turning my coffee table into a soundboard, basically.
I mean, you can get quite small ones.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
But
I think that we might not have this sync issue, but I think we'd probably find other problems.
Probably. I mean, it's certainly added complexity.
Yeah. If we did, I don't know, if we went like Idle Thumbs have their own. They've gotten so big now that they've got their own like little studio that they rent. If we ever got into that sort of thing, then I think we'd spend a little more money on the soundboard and like better mics and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
but these mics are great, and we've got like these weird rags over them as like makeshift pop filters.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
Yeah,
but I remember early on, someone was teasing that we could use the Auckland University studio. Do you remember this?
That's right. Oh, who was that? I think
it was like someone at a game developer meetup.
I think it might have been
And
Leanne because she knew someone over there. I think it might have been her.
Yep. I remember that being an option, and I was like, there's no reason to invest in if we can use the studio.
Yeah.
So there was that.
And then that fell through. Yeah.
Yeah,
because they only wanted it for people who were associated with Auckland Uni. That was the thing at the end. Like they have this space that anyone can use, but you have to be associated with Auckland Uni.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't make any money off of this podcast. In fact, it costs money to do.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, Blake has already spent significant amounts of money on microphones and stands.
Yep.
And his own personal time editing.
Yes,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
This
I've spent money on microphones that we've not used. I bought a microphone that I was like, this is going to solve all our echo problems before I'd figured out like the echo stuff. Because these are what you call omni mics that like, they're not like...
not directional.
They're not directional? Yeah. So I bought a directional mic thinking that, well, if I just point it at my face, it's not going to pick up anyone else around. And it was just a terrible quality mic.
So yeah, this is it doesn't to me make a lot of sense to buy a soundboard, which is probably
we've got it. We've got
expensive.
it. We've got it sorted now. We've got a process, so
Yep.
we don't really need a soundboard.
And we sound all right.
Yeah.
Certainly, episodes like the Dungeons and Dragons episode exposed significant weaknesses in our setup.
But that's the thing of like, if I do still want to do more D&D episodes, and
It just requires a lot of experimentation.
yeah, as it'll be just like how we did it at the start of this podcast. Like if you listen to those first few episodes, I think the first episode we were all huddled around one mic.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Or I think maybe it was
Or maybe two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had two mics, and we were like,
Yep.
Omni mics. We'll just record the whole room, and
Yep.
it sounded terrible. So yeah, we'll just figure stuff out as we go with the D&D setup.
Yeah.
The oh shit, the other hurdle that we had was hosting the thing. No,
What?
No, I mean hosting.
What?
Yeah, we're still. If anyone knows of a good host,
Excuse me?
Well,
According to this email from
well, people have servers.
I think he
and,
means
I
Libsyn
know.
hosting.
I get it.
so.
Screw you, Saveun, but I get it.
And for a while, we came across a whole bunch of things. There are options. If you're more like computer internet savvy, you could probably have your own server and distribute it that way. But you really need to know what you're doing there. Podbean was also another thing that happened. They have you can host up to like 200 megabytes worth of podcasts until they start charging you. So that
200 megs.
something like that.
That's not much.
That's like
which is
3 or 4 episodes.
yeah, maybe.
yeah.
So we did that for a little bit, but we found Libsyn was the way to go, and they
A lot of
host
people use Libsyn, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're actually pretty decent when you start reading up about them.
Yeah, they've also got their own inbuilt like advertising service so that once you hit a certain listenership, you can start advertising through them and make a little bit of money.
They also
But
give
we're
you.
not even close to that.
They also, I think they just give you a your own like basically website, because we've got like, for a while before we had the WordPress, we were directing people to that Libsyn website where it's like
Right.
a list of our podcasts, but there was no way to like make that look good. It was just their standard list.
Yeah, it's like an RSS feed.
Yeah.
thing.
So, to answer some of these questions, are there any tools that you use that we should explore? I would say,
Audition.
Audition. Yeah,
Um.
and Libsyn as
Yeah.
a hosting service. It seems quite good.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice as we get started with the podcast? Try clapping.
Yeah. Try clapping.
helps a lot.
Mhm.
And if you could recommend one thing, what would it be? Clapping again. Try clapping.
Clapping. You have no idea how much time clapping has saved in the editing. It's just amazing. The last podcast we did, clapped at the beginning, clapped at the end. I set it up. I like got them in sync, and then seriously, the most time I spent was just trying to find an intro and outro.
And it still took a day to. A
still
day
took a
to-
day.
Well, it came out a day later.
Oh yeah, it came out a day later. Oh, that's because I need a new USB drive.
Oh.
Yeah, because I put it on my USB drive and then took it to work, and it was not on my USB drive was dead.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I usually back them up onto cloud before, but I'd forgotten that night, and just I remember lying in bed being like, oh, I forgot to do that, and then thinking, it'll be fine.
Oh well.
Yep.
So that's from Morgan. Any other advice you guys want to can think of?
I think expectations.
Yeah,
'Cause
keep your expectations very low.
real low, super low.
Yeah,
Well,
keep them on the
I-
ground.
Be happy with 20 listeners.
Yeah, seriously.
I was cool with. I'm still cool with 20 listeners.
Yeah.
I like to just. I hope some of it's interesting to some people. Of what that's my hope.
Well, they
of the
always
podcast.
don't like don't people say that like even in like video games and stuff, it's like the quality of the listeners or the players are more important than the quantity. Like if you can cultivate a cool little community, which I think we've sort of
It's
done.
happening.
Like there's
slowly.
like
We've got regulars.
yeah, we definitely have like regular people that like message us and we message them back and stuff. Like
Yeah.
I think that's really awesome. Like I really think that's cool.
Yep. It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's good advice. Don't expect it to be a mega hit.
Yeah.
Immediately or ever, really.
Yeah.
Like
Well, what's unfortunate is it's so saturated, like
It is.
podcasts and doing one on
especially
business.
video games.
But
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, business. I mean, that's a.
Yeah.
There are some out there that are business focused. But
You guys are always talking about Planet Money.
I love Planet Money. It's so good.
Planet Money's good.
It's copy Planet Money. That's another.
Startup is another one.
Yeah.
I listen to. Yeah, I think just keep your expectations low.
Because
Chug
the
away
thing
at
is,
it.
like, I've listened to podcasts that are popular now and gone back and listened to their previous stuff, and they often talked about how low their listeners were, and I don't think they were talking about like low being like in the thousands. I think they were talking about in the hundreds.
Yeah.
or less.
I mean, I have a friend who was on 2 very successful podcasts.
Yeah.
But they took years to get to that point.
Yeah. It's a long game. It's
is.
a long game, and
he had every advantage as well.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, and I think we also have the advantage that there's Path of Exile, like people come because of that. Whereas like I've being part of the Australasian podcast network,
AGP on Twitter.
I've seen like some of their numbers, and I'm like, oh man, we did start off with a bit of an advantage.
Yeah. So that's the question I haven't been answering for months. We got another one. This is from. How much time have we got, Blake?
We got plenty of time.
Oh, great. This is from Rune.
Oh, yep.
Hey, Nick is also doing a great job hosting. End of email. No. Good at asking questions to keep the conversation flowing. And then he said, that'd be so awesome if you managed to do more D&D stuff. I really enjoyed it. Steve making a return in the Museum of Magic episodes was great. Such a great character.
He is.
Shout out to Steve.
Get down.
Speaking of Steve, the Thorn in the Sun campaign was also an amazing listen, especially the part where you convinced the guards that you were tourists there to see fine gardening of the city. The fine gardening of the city. These reading skills are not good. Mad props to Rory for that campaign. And he says he is on Team Blake. # Team Blake. That is cold pizza in space. That being said,
cold pizza in space.
Yeah.
Well, if pizza is just floating in the void of space,
it's gonna be cold.
It's gonna
be as cold as you can possibly get.
Not gonna taste good. It's gonna taste like metal.
Probably hurt you.
I thought I thought you have that thing where when there's sun, isn't it really hot? Because there's nothing to shield the sun.
Oh, if you're
you're on the moon, right?
Yeah,
there are huge fluctuations in temperature.
Yeah, no, you're right. But I think in the void of empty space.
Yeah, you're just cold.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, because I guess like we're still. On you, I guess in on the moon we're still close enough. It's still close enough to the sun to get sunburn.
Well, actually, now that I think about it, it's hard to tell. Because there's also this thing in space. It's really one of the things about space stations is that's most difficult to maintain is temperature. You have to actually cool it down.
Yeah.
Because
no atmosphere.
Heat requires a medium to really try to be conductive through materials, and so it's completely. You think about a thermos. It uses a vacuum to keep your beverage warm. There's the space station's in a vacuum.
Yeah.
So it just gets warmer.
The
and
heat
warmer.
just. From what I remember people talking, for some reason I saw some thread on the internet about people saying, oh, we should set up like cloud servers on the moon because it'll be so cold, you just keep those servers cold. And then someone...
on the dark side of the moon?
Yeah. And then someone pointed out like, well, in a vacuum, the heat just has nowhere to go, so it'll just hover around the servers. It'll just stay around there.
In them.
It won't disperse anywhere.
That's right.
So you need a big fan.
Material.
So you still need giant fans to blow.
I mean, heat sinks that went into like the ground and then maybe, pipes that stick out.
Yeah.
You just have to really increase the surface area, I suppose.
Yeah.
but maybe that even wouldn't work. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a physicist. I'm a game designer.
If you had cold water just circulating
Just as a drink.
and being
Just have a
You want
sip of
some
cold water.
I'm just real thirsty.
Anyway, to finish this email. That being said, ever since I heard you guys talking about panini pressing pizza, I've been wanting to try that out. Dinosaurs are cool and all, but they ain't beating space in my book. Have a great weekend. I agreed. Dinosaurs suck. Space rules.
Wow.
That's what I got.
Space rules, dinosaurs drool.
What?
But also hot pizza for life. Talking about hot pizza, we went to we had a little podcast meetup last weekend at Toto's Pizza, where they do meter-long pizza. Delicious. If you live in Auckland, check out Toto's. Shout out to Toto's. Toto's on Twitter.
Thanks for sponsoring this podcast.
It was delicious, and we had one guy turn up. That was pretty neat.
Yep.
Seemed nice.
That was great.
But he had never heard of our podcast. He was just there because I think he wanted to get into podcasting. Just wanted to hear about podcasting. I don't know.
What was weird was he ate beforehand too, so he didn't even.
So he didn't even.
So he didn't even have some pizza.
Oh boy. Yeah. Cool. I'm out of things. You
Yeah.
guys got anything?
Wouldn't it suck if that guy was like, "Oh, I heard of their podcast," and then we just rag on?
Yeah, he's like a big fan now, and he listens, and then
Yeah.
Yeah, one episode. The next
the next
episode.
episode, well, man, that guy sucks. No, that guy was nice though. If
Was
you're out
cool.
there, I've forgotten your name, but you were nice. Anybody
I'm
remember?
nodding. Yes.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll be back in a couple weeks, probably.
Oh, E3's happening. I think.
Is it?
Between this podcast and the next? I think.
In May?
No,
I think
early
it's
June.
it's in June, yeah.
Yeah. We're at the tail end of May right now.
No, we're not.
No, we don't.
Aren't we?
We're in the early May.
This is like May 12th.
Next week.
Oh
is,
my goodness.
Next week is mid-May.
Okay.
What are you doing, Saveun?
I
Get your
thought we're
life.
Oh my
Get your life
goodness.
together, man.
Oh my goodness. Well,
That's funny. You have the opposite problem as me because I'm like, oh man, I can't believe it's already this time of year.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I
okay.
still feel like it's February.
I'm still
Huh.
eating Easter chocolate.
Oh my
So-
God.
That's my life.
I thought, man, I was excited for E3 too. I still
Yeah.
am. Now I've
What
just
do
gotta
we-
wait.
Early E3 predictions.
There's gonna be video games there.
Video games. Do you think they'll? Do you think it'll be like bigger because like last time they let in all the public and
Are
God,
they
I
doing-
that
hope
place
not.
was
Are they
not?
doing that this year?
I don't know
Yeah, I'm not sure.
because that was
I-
the big thing last year. Was that like there were too many people?
There were so many people. It was insane. I've been to that was my third E3, and
Yeah.
that was I don't want to say miserable because I still had fun.
Yeah.
but it was just, and I
We were working.
was working. It was just very crowded, and I'm glad I was working and not like that. I didn't pay money
Yeah.
to go.
You didn't
stand in
want
line.
to stand in line for 5 hours to play.
No, absolutely
something.
not. That would be miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, you know what? We like hearing from you guys, so why don't you email us, friendseatquestions@gmail.com. If you have any questions, we sometimes answer them, like today.
Yep.
You can also tweet at us at FriendSeatCast. Facebook.com/FriendSeatCast is our Facebook page. You can send us a message. We often reply on there. FriendSeatGamer.wordpress.com is our WordPress site. Sometimes we get comments on there, and sometimes we reply. YouTube.com/FriendSeatCast. That is probably where most people listen to this podcast. So if you're listening to us on YouTube,
not.
leave a comment.
It isn't.
It's not. Never mind. I'm wrong.
It's like less than a quarter of the people.
Less than a quarter. Nobody listens to us on YouTube. If you're listening to us
There
on
was
YouTube
high
right
demand.
now,
I remember
let us
when we.
know.
That's another thing. I remember when we first started. People kept coming out to me being like, why are you not on YouTube? Get on YouTube. I listen to all my podcasts on YouTube."
Yeah.
And then the YouTube numbers are nowhere near what like the.
We've got how many subscribers? 100.
Oh no! I mean
Something.
that's all. I love seeing it grow, but
Yeah.
it's just like the way people were hyped it up for me. I was like, oh, this is going to be a big thing.
My wife Carrie was she's listening to podcasts at the moment. And,
Yeah.
she found us on some podcast app she uses.
Oh,
and it
wow.
had like 8 subscribers or something. And I was
What? What's the
"Woo,
podcast
are
app?
you one of them?" She's like, "Nope."
What's the app?
I'll
It
have
must
to
be
find
a
out.
separate app because
Yeah, because on Podcast Addict we got like 500.
yeah, and I think
wow.
I think that's plugged into iTunes.
Okay.
I think that gets its stuff
That's
from
neat.
iTunes. Yeah.
Right.
All right, I'll find out. Anyway, you should rate us on iTunes. And do we even have a rating yet? Has it shown up?
No.
There's a minimum number of.
We've got
of,
one review from your buddy.
Yep.
That's-
Shout out Andy.
Yeah. I should just make a bunch of fake accounts. And
Don't do that. Please
Number
don't do
one
that.
podcast.
We want to hear from real people on iTunes. So if you're enjoying the podcast, give us a rating. We would love to actually get a rating.
Yeah, that would be
be
great.
amazing. And tell your friends about us. And we're part of the Australasian Gaming Podcast Network. That's hashtag AGP on Twitter, facebook.com/groups/AGP network/co. That's just appeared on here.
What?
I think
Really?
I think maybe something goofing happened on this.
/co.
I don't know. I don't think that's it.
Co-op.
Find it. If you can find it on Facebook, tell us what it is. We'll be back in a couple weeks. Love you. Bye.
Oh shit.
Mother's Day. Your kid's talking about drugs.
Mother's Day special.
Yeah. All right. It's called forward, not reach forward. And it's all in all caps at the start anyway. Do not close this email. You are now cursed. Bloody Mary is coming for you. You have to send this email or else you will die. The moment you opened this email, you were marked with a deadly curse that can only be broken if you send this email. Bloody Mary is now hunting you and will not rest until you're dead. This is no joke. I repeat, no joke. If you don't send this, she will enter your house, take out your eyes with fork and eat your face. Then she will rip out your spleen and hang you by your intestines.
Intestines.
Oh, actually, it's intestines. For all your neighbors to see. Don't believe me? Jared, surname removed, didn't send this to anyone. Biggest mistake of his life. He doesn't have a life now because he is dead, and he also doesn't have a face. His neighbors were very upset. Tanya, surname removed, only sent the email to her best friend. When she woke up, her face was gone! Boy, were her neighbors surprised.
Why are the neighbors constantly?
Mongo, surname removed, sent this email to his entire school, and now he is the class president. His neighbors were so proud, and his intestines were perfectly intact. If you don't want to end up like Jared or Tanya, then you need to email everyone. If you send this to no one, kiss goodbye to your face. Oh wait, you can't because your lips are gone and you dead.
You did.
1 to 6 people. Get ready for a world of pain because it turns out having no face stings, but you're alive. 7 to 12 people. Your dog or cat's face is gone. Sorry, bub, but you should have emailed more people than pets. 13 to 27 people or more. Watch out, world. Here comes the next Mr. President or King or Queen. End of email.
Nice.
Yeah, fantastic.
Thank you.
Your mic wasn't recording.
Fuck off.
Yeah, it wasn't. But these ones were.
Seriously?
Yeah.